Good morning, Jackie. You are
Good
looking
morning.
very well.
Thank
And
you. I mean, I've been up since 5, so
oh, because
yeah,
you are in.
I'm in Canada, so Vancouver, West Coast. So it's 8 a.m. here, but I have a 10-month-old son who is learning how to stand and has a tooth coming in. So I'm
Wow.
usually up pretty early. To be honest, it works really well because I do so much work in the UK still. So I
Yeah.
still kind of like get the rest of the UK day, and then I start working like on New York time, and then I mean my days are like quite long, but I get in on with everybody, so it works.
Okay. And
Yeah.
is that home now? I believe.
No. LA's
Oh,
home. Well, LA's supposed to be home. We got stuck in Vancouver because of COVID.
oh,
Ah.
So we were on our way to
okay.
LA and we decided to have the baby in Canada so the grandparents could see him. And then basically COVID, we were supposed to travel here in April and then COVID hit, and then the Canadian Prime Minister announced they were going to shut borders. So we immediately literally like booked a flight, the first flight out of London, and we had 48 hours to pack up all of our stuff. And so
Oh my God.
we have been living, so all of our stuff is in boxes in my husband's parents' garage, and we have been
Yeah.
living out of 2 suitcases with a newborn baby, like jumping from like we went to my parents. We were supposed to move into my parents' new house that they had just bought that they weren't moving into for a year, and then because of COVID, it didn't get finished built. Like didn't, and so then we had to move to my husband's parents' summer house, which is like super small. And then we're like, we can't live here. And then we had to. So now we're in Vancouver in like a beautiful. We're on the beach, in the ocean, like this a
Nice.
beautiful house.
Mm.
But now we're like, okay, we got to get to LA. So we're going to
Wow.
LA June 1st. But
Talk
yeah,
about disruption.
been pretty crazy.
So
Jeez.
the baby's nationality is
Canadian, but he's going to have
okay.
a British passport. So I haven't done it yet, but he'll apply for a British passport. But effectively, I've got triple citizenship. So my dad's Chinese, so I have access to Chinese passport. I'm a British citizen. I'm obviously Canadian, and then I'm gonna have my green card in America. So it's we can work
Wow.
anywhere.
There you go.
Yeah. You are global.
Yeah, I certainly
Jackie
am.
is global. So
Yeah.
look, I think you possibly watched a few of these before, Jackie, because they're growing in popularity, which is something that Anthony and I are very happy about.
Do you know what?
I,
I actually have not, and I meant to. I was just fucking busy
I,
this week, so I am
I
so sorry, but I do want to watch them, and I think it's really
yeah.
great.
Well, I hope you watch your one. That would be a good start.
I don't need to watch it. I'm on it. I know what I
Well,
say.
listen, yes.
I
So,
definitely want to watch some of the other ones, though, for sure.
okay, well, great. And I think one of the key things that has been a really pleasant surprise to Anthony and I, because when we first started thinking about doing these, we thought, oh, it's going to be quite UK mainly, focused on the founders and funds in the UK. But what really has happened is it's become quite global, which is great
Cool.
Yeah.
because, especially following on what you just introduced us to with your nationalities and the baby's birth certificate. So I suppose, really what we try and do in 45 minutes, we've got the camera rolling now. We don't mess around with, the long-winded intros. We get cut straight to the chase, I suppose is the terminology.
Perfect.
And, I think from memory, we met a couple of years ago in London, one of my many events. And you were a very lively member of the audience, I remember. And
Was
we got
I?
chatting. Yeah, you asked a
I mean,
few.
that doesn't surprise me, but
Well, I mean, I would sort of caveat that with, when you are hosting pitch events, and sometimes they're in the evening in the old pre-COVID world where people had possibly been up at a desk for 10 or 12 hours, and then they come along to a nice event at, one of our sponsors, usually in the City of London or the West End. And if lively, the definition I have of lively in this context is people who actually are awake,
Awake.
people who are
The bar is low.
interested, and people who ask a few questions. I do remember you asked a number of the founders some good, really great questions, and that's where we met. That was my overriding memory, and we've kept in touch since. And you've been busy, and I think that's a good way to sort of entree into the latest venture, which the audience we have from our analytics are showing us it's quite a key audience that your new business is aligned with, both on the investment side and also the technology founder side. So I suppose let's hear a bit about Sandbox first of all.
Perfect. So Sandbox Studios is, in my head, I guess it's an evolution of what I used to do. So I used to run, or I launched one of the most influential sponsorship agencies in the world, which I sold in 2016. I started in 2010 in my bedroom without really knowing where I was going with it. I was delighted that it kind of grew as big as it did, but fundamentally the premise was that consumers engage with products and brands differently than most brands kind of think that they do. And sponsorship is a really great opportunity to create engagement with consumers. And fundamentally, my whole thesis with my first business was that badging logos on stuff doesn't work anymore. So you'd see, people spend 53 million for Chelsea football shirt sponsorship. And I thought that was ludicrous. And so fortunately, I don't want to say I was right, but I was right. So that kind of helped propel the business. And what Sandbox Studios is I guess, honestly, I guess the next stage of that, I think right now we're in a situation where the market is increasingly cluttered. There are so many marketing messages. There are so many new brands as well. So it's more competitive. It's harder to reach consumers. And the way to do that is, and consumers want more. So they are demanding a better engagement with the products and services that they buy rather than transactional. And they are looking to align their values with other people's brand values. And that is effectively what works. So that is the underlying message. What we do is we work with celebrities in order to communicate that very quickly. So by aligning yourself to a recognizable face, it's easy for a brand to kind of communicate what they stand for, like what they're about really, really, really easily. So our agency side of the business works with brands to bring talent on board, whether that's getting a celebrity to front the brand or to buy in at a discounted investment or an equity deal. There's a whole bunch of ways you can work with celebrities. So we work with brands to firstly identify the right celebrity and roll out campaigns. And we also work with celebrities. So since George Clooney made 1.2 billion on Casamigos, literally every actor and musician in the world now wants to launch a tequila. And it's not so easy to do. And also tequila isn't the right fit for every celebrity. And I don't think a lot of celebrities understand the amount of work and grit required to launch a business like that. So we kind of put in the infrastructure, the support, and mostly the strategy about really what kind of products celebrities should align with. So that's the agency side of the business. We have an agency, I guess we have an agency in London and in LA. So we work kind of cross-continent. And then our VC part of the business, which is predominantly what I run, we invest in talent-driven product collaborations. So the agency seeds some of that. So the best thing for investors is that it's pre-seed. They get in there at the ground before anybody even knows about it, before anybody's even raising money. But also because I'm kind of a thought leader in the space, I kind of know everybody who's talking about what products they're going to launch, who's launching them, and most importantly, what to look for. And I know when something's going to work and when something's not going to work. And so our VC basically, it's a 15 million pound fund. We're still raising, to just be clear. We're still raising, but we will launch 8 to 10 products between this year and 2023.
Okay. And I suppose not letting the Pandora out of the box, so to speak, but naming brands and celebrities, because obviously that's to come. What are the sort of prominent trends do you think you're going to focus in on through the launch, the the different products. If you can expand on some of those, that would be brilliant.
Of course. So the sectors that we invest in, so the products basically have to be ubiquitous. So something that everybody uses across the world. So it's your sneakers, your speakers, your water, your booze. It's very simple things that everybody in the world can buy. Also, D2C is a really important element to this. So a lot of the businesses that we're launching will have very, very low overheads in terms of like, we're not going to be bricks and mortar. We're really going to be selling D2C. We're capitalizing on the celebrities' reach and kind of using that to get into stockists. So stuff that ships well. I mean, it's simple stuff, like stuff that ships well, that packs well, that's relatively easy to make, that doesn't have a lot of kind of issues effectively. I mean, most of the time it will be upmarket, but a really great example of what we're doing that isn't would be Babe Rosé, which is fronted by the Fat Jewish. I don't know if anybody knows him, huge influencer, but he's the CEO of Babe Rosé, which is massive, and that is very much down market. And that is a really great product. So it doesn't have to be upmarket. I think most of the time it tends to be. It helps with margins. Certainly, booze is an easier one to kind of go down market with.
Jackie, I'm going to show my ignorance. Babe Rosé.
Yeah.
I think that was that the
wine?
version 2.0 of the name? I think I remember it being called something else originally.
I think it's Babe. I think Babe Rosé has always been Babe Rosé.
Okay.
White Girl Wasted. Are you talking about White Girl Wasted? Yeah.
This is a little
I think that wasn't their actual name. I think that's kind of what they talked about. So,
sorry, I have to admit, I'm completely lost at this point.
He kind of like.
I'll give you the whole thing. Yeah.
It got its start in the Hamptons, wasn't it? Summertime in the Hamptons.
Anthony, very good. See, pop culture. He knows. Basically, the Fat Jewish is an influencer who's a funny influencer, basically. He's a comedian, funny influencer. And there was a shortage of rosé in the Hamptons, and I guess he did a bunch of viral tweets that went like kind of viral. It was hilarious, like people like losing it because they couldn't get rosé in the summertime in the Hamptons. And so he decided to capitalize on the content that he created and partnered. So he didn't launch this, but he came on board with a wine brand, and they put rosé in a can. And it's sold throughout America. It's a really hot product. It's basically all your Karens and your Sarahs drinking it in the back patio on a summer's day.
And he did this viral marketing campaign just from his own brand that really was showing the power of influencer marketing at its best, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And is it fair to say you were involved in that, Jackie?
No, I was not.
No.
I 100% was not involved with that. Yeah, no. I mean, I wish I was, because that's really, really smart. But effectively, the deals that you see with ownership and equity right now, the ones that you're like aware of, or the ones that are exited, or the ones that have exited, those ones are typically self-funded. So Good American is funded by Khloe Kardashian. Like, it's all mostly self-funded by talent. Now, that's good if you're smart or rich. So there's a lot of celebrities. I mean, I hate to name and shame, but Mark Wahlberg's a great example of being rich. So he's got lots of money, has launched like 8 companies. He's got all his friends or random people fronting them that have no idea what they're doing.
Wahlburger in Leicester Square, for anybody who wants to go try.
Not doing well though, so you have a bunch of people kind of launching this stuff without any kind of clear understanding. And then if they're smart, so then you have smart people. So Dr. Dre and Beats, like those are smart people that launched it. And when you kind of add just a little bit of strategy behind it, it's kind of a no-brainer to launch consumer products. It's actually relatively easy to do. What it's lacking is the team and the expertise.
Okay.
Which is what we do.
So where you are at this point, you have a sort of lot of products, artists ready to go, and effectively, is it when the funding's done, you start, or is it kind of seamlessly merging into each other at the moment?
It's seamlessly merging into each other. So the agency has been profitable. We were already working with people. I haven't announced, really, we haven't done a lot of press. I mean, I've been doing stuff with you and like stuff with like some, but I haven't actually kind of said this is what we do and this is what we're about, mostly because I am really focused on closing the fund, but also B, we're already ridiculously busy and we haven't even told people. It's like a huge trend. So at the moment, we're already working with brands and talent. Some of them we may invest into. I've also just got other deals in the pipeline that I'm familiar with because I know the team and I know the product. So a couple of them, I mean, I'm happy to share them. One of them is a female activewear brand for women over 50 called Legatta. They're in talks with a pretty big A-list celebrity, older woman celebrity to front it, which is amazing. Another one that we're considering is called Woo More Play, and it's female intimacy products. And it's launched by a company called Dear Media, and they basically own the top female podcasters in the world. And they created that product because they asked them, you know, what endorsements are you turning down? And they're like, we're constantly turning down KY jelly, Trojan condoms, all of that stuff because it looks horrific and it doesn't match my brand. So they created something that matches their brand. So we're kind of on the hunt for those kind of products, but obviously that have a celebrity attached to it.
Okay, and would it be fair to assume that the initial brands campaigns are going to be North American focused or global?
No, global. So my background is obviously London. That's how we know each other. So I spent 20 years in Europe and all my contacts are in Europe. We've moved to LA because the weather, quite frankly, but also from what we're doing now, you know, it's good to be like in the thick of like all
close to
of
the talent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it makes sense. But Legatta is a UK brand. So that's one of our things. The Woo More Play is American. Another one we're looking at is Mexican. So we're very much looking kind of all over the world.
Yeah. Okay. So for that brand to fit that particular market somewhere in the world, or when you mention Mexican, is that Mexican for Mexican? So
no. So it's a Mexican product. It's a tequila made by Don Julio's grandson, who it sells incredibly well in Mexico. I think it's the #2, but they've launched in America. So we would kind of be taking over that, but obviously launching it in Europe. Okay,
great. And then your role within these different brands and the campaigns and when they launch, will the VC be what's termed a very active VC, hands-on, directing, person on the board, the whole
shebang,
sort of thing.
The whole thing. So one of the things that, I mean, I am an agency person. I am not a VC person. This is new to me. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. And I think in a way, my ignorance has helped pave what I think is going to be the right move. So for me, I would never invest. And actually, as an angel investor, this stems from this as well. So when we met, I was looking at investments and I made a number of investments. And what I found incredibly challenging was seeing mistakes and providing suggestions, but without the people to do them, I was responsible for doing them. And I just thought that was ridiculous. So with what we're doing is, you know, I am going to make this work because that is what I do. That's my skill set. I'm not interested in just picking things. We're going to be in there. We're going to build an empire. So I not only become a co-founder, we have a board seat with super voting rights, the whole thing. But more importantly is my entire agency team goes in every month, 15 hours at least a month with every single portfolio company for free for the entirety of the fund. So that's a value of $18 million US dollars throughout the fund that we're giving for free. And I'm not doing it because I'm like generous. I'm doing it because that's the only way I think this will work.
Okay, that's interesting. And then I'd assume the fundraising aspect is relatively new to you for the
new. Yeah. Okay. So I'm very good at getting money from people. That's kind of like, you know, it's true. And so I didn't feel like it was like
don't speak to my wife.
I didn't feel like it was completely outside of my skill set or wheelhouse. And I I mean, I think I've done pretty good so far. We're in pretty late stage conversations with some really like key people, like the co-founder of Twitch, the co-founder of Cameo, who, by the way, I've reached out like totally cold call, like, hi, I'm Jackie. I have no idea what I'm doing. Do you want to come and do this thing that I'm doing? So I'm pretty good at convincing people. And obviously the difference with my first business and this business is I have a track record. You know, I've got a whole history of doing amazing stuff.
It's a little bit easier.
So in terms of raising money, it's different for sure. And it has been more challenging, honestly, than I thought it would be. Because I just thought it would be like, for me, I think this is a no-brainer. If I had the 50 million, I wouldn't even be raising. I would just throw it all in there and just do this. But, you know, I think a lot of it is I know what I can do and the industry, but I need to kind of educate other people. And although people can see these deals, they don't really understand the complexity. So it's hard, you know, it's taking me a little longer than I expected.
It's probably true to say that what you're building is relatively new to the industry, I'd assume.
Yeah. So people don't understand the agency thing. They don't understand why I'm getting involved. They don't understand like what the fund's doing. So it's just, you know, it's like a next gen venture fund. The agency is pretty forward thinking. So even just that alone, trying to explain what we do is like an education piece. And then kind of tying it all together is, it's difficult.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's kind of
difficult.
The convergence of all these various value adds to create this super value add. Because I saw some data recently that was talking about value added investors. I think it was referencing in Europe, saying that for the most part, the value add reported by the founders didn't really stack up. So having an actual agency as part of the value add bring will probably help you to actually deliver on the value added investor piece.
Well, the truth of the matter is I have worked with all of these types of things and launches. And if you don't have somebody running the business who knows what they're doing from a sales and marketing perspective, it's not going to work. Having a celebrity is certainly incredibly helpful, but if you don't know how to work those assets, it's pointless.
A bad ad is a bad ad.
Yeah, completely. So it's new, but I mean, I think I'm doing pretty well so far.
And with the sort of initial funding or the first fund, that's focused on these 8 to 10 particular products or brands. That's probably going to be next 18 months to a couple of years, would you say?
I'm hoping to kind of deploy all of the capital before summer 2023.
Okay. And I suppose for aspiring people listening today, you know, where, you know, naturally we'll distribute your profile and everything with the podcast, but where would you say the sort of the deal flow is really coming from? Are you working with any other particular parties, or is it just all yourself? Or, you know, if you can just expand on how maybe people could contact you, or how does it work? I'm just curious.
Sure. So deal flow really is through my network. So I've already kind of built the network from my previous job. I've been doing this for 20 years, really. But our agency obviously is the kind of the first point of call. So if what's typically happening is brands are like, we definitely want to work with celebrity. We have no idea how to get one. Let's go to the Sandbox Studios and maybe they can help us find one. And then I mean, one of the big caveats is that the agency and the fund are very different. So just because you work with the agency does not mean that we will fund you, because that's just not how it works. And not everything that we work on is the right fit and even meets the selection criteria. But that's not to say that having a celebrity isn't important to a brand. So typically our deal flow will come through that or myself. Again, I think once we kind of say we've got a $15 million fund, everybody I know will be crawling, mostly just because this is the space that I'm in.
Yeah. And has I suppose it's a bit of a topical pandemic question. Has the pandemic made, I suppose the potential of the opportunity even greater as you look out, or do you think you were just going to do this anyhow? And unfortunately, we've had a horrible pandemic, and that's just happened, and it has had no influence on people's appetite for this type of venture.
I've got to imagine that looking at all the earnings that have come out of the US this week with like Amazon and all these guys, that especially that direct to consumer piece and online shopping bit has got to be a much more powerful proposition. It was already very strong, but it's got to be even more so now, right?
I think that it really depends on the investor. And again, this is my first fund, so it's hard for me to kind of give any kind of comparison. But from a kind of COVID lockdown situation, I certainly feel like we've benefited. I'm having like 15 meetings a week, and there's no physical way I could have done that if I was trying to meet people in person. So I mean, I feel like because of that, we've kind of grown. Even in the last 2 weeks, it was nuts. On Monday, I raised $1 million just on like 3 calls. And
that's a good Monday.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I wish my Mondays were like that.
Yeah, that's a nice Monday.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But I don't think that would have happened if we weren't in COVID. I think people are like, and they're also, they've been stuck at home. They want to like be working on something. They want to see the end of the thing. This is a huge opportunity for people to kind of get involved in the ground level on something that's really exciting. They're taking the time, whereas I don't know if they would have before.
Okay, and then I suppose when back in LA, does it morph into more of? I suppose COVID is I hope going in LA. I know it was really bad a while back. But does the role, the office, do you morph back into 1,000 meetings a month face to face with different people, or do you think you're still going to utilize the power of the big Zoom, as I call it?
So I personally am somebody who likes to get stuff done. So I have really enjoyed lockdown. I'm one of probably the only people. Yeah, I just I'm super, super efficient. I don't mind working from home. I literally could never leave my house for like 4 days. And my husband's like, have you been outside to breathe air? I'm like, I don't know.
There's air in here.
Last week, I think maybe I left the house. So, I mean, for me, I'm like, I'm like focused. I'm up at 5. I'm doing stuff, and I'll go until 5. And then,
Also, I got to imagine doing that East Coast, West Coast, and EU would be like a crazy busy travel schedule if you went back to pre-pandemic methods for getting all of that done.
Well, I just don't think I would really do that again. But saying that, when I had my agency in London, one of the big things, we used to have people that commuted in from kind of like outside London, and they used to have like horrific commutes. And my whole thing was like, I don't care. You chose to live there. This is the agency. You need to be here to like learn stuff. And so I think maybe I'll probably ease up on that slightly. But we 100%, we have an office. We will be working out of Soho House and our office. One of the guys that works in the fund is really wanting to get stuck in. And I think a lot of that is like being there when ideas and stuff pop up, and you're not necessarily learning and working and growing unless you're like in somebody else's physical space.
I think in the early days as well, when you're trying to figure things out and find the rhythm, I think it's important as well. If you're already established, it can be a little bit easier to do things remotely, but especially for something new, I think there's a lot of value to everybody being close.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then the actual hard line under the fund is going to be March. It'd be all money in by March, or
no, I mean, I'm hoping September, for end of summer. I'm hoping September basically. So I feel like, I don't know. Again, this is my first fund. Who knows? I mean, all of the stats are saying like 17 months, and I was like, holy shit. So I'm hoping that's not the case. We've got some pretty big players coming on board, but I mean, it's like anything, right? If they all come on board, we're done. And then if they don't, then start again, right? So I'm hoping, I'm targeting for my personal planning end of August, September.
And you well, I mean, it generally takes 18 months to 2 years for most funds to I think raise from start to finish. So that's pretty quick, I'd imagine.
Oh, it would be incredibly quick. So I personally didn't start fundraising until like a month ago.
Wow, that's very quick.
Yeah. So I mean, and like I said, I got $1 million on
hustle.
Monday. So I think, you know, like I said, I'm good at, I know what I'm doing, so I can communicate it relatively well. Like the piece that I don't have is the BC piece.
That's interesting. And then I suppose, you know, if we move on slightly to more your experience in driven by previous roles, you know, finding in fact you found your own business, sold it successfully, brilliant exit. Just you know, what for the listeners would you say is Jackie's tip for success? And you know, I imagine you know, you strike me as a very, you know, energetic, passionate, focused person. I'm just, if you were to share some of those skills that you've acquired as to help other people succeed, especially on the founder side, what would they be?
I definitely think one of the biggest lessons I learned when I set up my first business, I didn't really appreciate how cyclical business was. So like when you have highs, they're like amazing, but when you have lows, it's like the world is ending. And I think now that I have kind of gone through that a number of times, I mean, this will have been my fourth business, I think. The fund, which is effectively 2 businesses, which will be 8. I think my experience has taught me that that is very normal. And you have to kind of try to just ride it out and keep being self-motivated, feeling, you know, confident. And I think having, for me, what has always helped me is I've always really believed in everything that I've done and doing. So when things are really bad, you know, I just kind of, you have to like dig in basically and just keep doing it. And I've always kind of equated my career and my history like, you know, a rock band that is practicing in their parents' garage, and they're practicing and they're practicing and they're practicing and they're practicing. And then all of a sudden they're number one. And I think you never see the practicing, you know, all of a sudden there's just this band that comes out of nowhere, but they've probably been playing for 20 years. And so I think that kind of momentum and just remembering that you got to kind of put in the work.
Have you tended to be a sole founder with most of your businesses, or have you ever co-founded businesses?
So I set up my first business by myself, mostly because I didn't know anybody, I'll be honest with you. And I spent the entire 6 years being like, if I just had a co-founder, if I just had a co-founder, if we just had a co-founder. And then I sold it and the check was 100% mine. And I was like, thank God I never had a co-founder.
Yeah, that's the flip side of it.
And I mean, I was like, I like all of the complaining for 6 years, it was just not worth it. Saying that, I did kind of set up our VC with the co-founder, and he's kind of stepped away, but mostly because he's also a musician. So he is kind of like really is working towards being a musician and won't really be involved with the fund. So since we've kind of agreed that I'll take 100% of it, he can kind of be involved as an investor. But you know, the focus is there. I have actually worked very differently. So I think when it's on me, I am, I guess, more scared, and I work better when I'm scared, you know, like I'm working harder. And also I don't have to answer to anybody. So I make decisions very quickly. You know, I spend money when I know to spend money. I don't have to ask people. So I think naturally I am somebody who works better alone, even though I would obviously massively recommend collaboration. My whole business is built on that. But as an owner of a business, I think I work better alone.
Okay. And just going back again to the whole fundraising experiences, have you, I suppose, experienced any particular meetings so far where, you know, we have potential VC people who want to become VCs, and you know, just kind of you've dipped your toe in that world? Has it surprised you at all, some of the meetings you've had? Have you know, not naming names or anything, or have you just found the whole experience to be quite enjoyable? you know, any sort of tips for the aspiring VCs from any of the experiences you've had so far on the fundraising journey?
So I definitely feel like I was a little naive when I launched my first fund. I've spoken to a number of fund managers or people that raise funds, and I kind of just got the general gist. But it wasn't, I mean, now I feel like I'm getting to know a bit more, but still, obviously, this is very new to me. So my first recommendation is speak to as many fund managers and see as many pitch decks, fundraising decks as you can. I saw 2 before I created my own, not enough. And I mean, I should know that because I do decks for a living. I just thought, oh, how hard could it be? And now I'm in the stage where like we're having to go backwards and redo it. So, you know, I didn't speak to enough fund managers. I did not see enough decks. So first things first. Second thing, people are really nice. I've been really surprised. A lot of amazing fund managers, fund partners have really taken the time to like provide advice and a lot of times make introductions, which I did not expect. So like a lot of people are like, I really like what you're doing. We don't know anybody. I'll introduce you to the partner. He might know somebody. So they have been, I would have said, more supportive than I would have expected, because effectively everybody is out for money, but it's not like that in the VC world.
Quite
I haven't, very collaborative. And so one of the things I mean, I always do this. I always ask for help. So, you know, I've like any fun conversations, like, what did you think of the deck? Would you have invested? What's wrong with it? So, I mean, ask the questions because most people are happy to help.
You have written several books, Jackie,
Yeah.
and pretty good ones, although I have to admit, I haven't read any of them. I've heard they're pretty good. So bad entree there, Chris. Slap. I wondered if you could perhaps tell us about the latest book.
No problem. So, Rule Breaker, Rebellious Leadership for the Future of Work, just came out March, actually, I believe. And it really profiles why leaders need to be more rebellious in order to be successful now. So it's small things, but it's, you know, it's about people speaking out rather than like hiding kind of behind mission and vision statements. It's about being authentic, it's following your passion, and it's really kind of profiles a lot of those leaders that are doing that. So Brewdog, Highly Cosmetics, and 92, and we kind of go and speak to all of these people that are really huge successful leaders today, because a lot of books around leadership are very old school. They're written by people that started their career in their 70s, typically climbing the corporate ladder. It's a lot more about like stick and carrot or you know, managing people, whereas the world isn't like that. The world is much more collaborative. People work in flatter structures. So how do you become a leader now? And that's what the book's about.
All right. And then we talked earlier about, I suppose you've been focused on the fund, you haven't really kind of been out publicizing what you do. When you, I imagine, launch and, you know, the whole whirligig increases, are you going to experience that joy called Clubhouse? Or
so, I mean, I have been invited to do Clubhouse things with people, but this is going to sound really ridiculous. So I have a UK phone and it obviously costs money when you turn it. So I'm in Canada, so it costs money when you turn it on. And I have been invited, and then I didn't realize that you have to kind of accept it on your, on your text message. It's like not on in the internet. And I'm just too tight to turn on my phone to actually take the
I do remember your entree to The Apprentice.
The audition tape.
Yes, yeah. So I'm like pretty thrifty. I mean, I'm not, but in certain things that I am. And so I am too tight. I don't want to pay £7.50 to accept an invite on Clubhouse. I don't need that. I just like, I've got podcasts, I'm busy. So no, I have not done it. And I mean, the people that have invited me to do interviews on Clubhouse, I like feel a bit bad for it. I think I'm not going to be invited again, but it's the way it is.
And I don't suppose you have any views on NFTs, because people always like to hear the NFT piece.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, NFTs are a really good thing to talk about, especially, I don't know if you've recently seen, but Eminem just launched his NFT. So there's celebrities now fronting NFTs and launching stuff, which is in our space. So one of our advisors, our digital advisor, is kind of the chair of the blockchain council in Europe. So he's been talking to me about NFTs for like forever. And I mean, I'm kind of digital, but maybe not that. So my thought is that NFTs is not a trend. I think it's an ownership thing. And so how do you own the rights to digital content? And digital content is still content, right? So yeah, I definitely think there's going to be a huge rise. Do I think that it's going to rise from where it is now? I mean, I think that last piece was what, 10 million? That with the artist.
People, 69 million actually.
Was it? Yes, that's the one.
There's 5,000 pieces of art in one collection.
Yeah. So do I think it will continue to be that crazy? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it will. I think you'll see NFTs on everything, like your house to, you know, stuff that you create on your own laptop. And because of that, it'll kind of drop the price. But yeah, it's an interesting space for sure.
On that note, on the digital blockchain cryptocurrency, have you ever dabbled in that space and enjoyed the experience?
Yeah, so I'm definitely an investor in crypto. I should have invested more. I am like always, I'm a pretty risky investor, mostly because I'm relatively young. I sold my business. I made more money than I ever thought I would ever have. So I was like, brilliant. Let's just spend all of this and make some more money. Crypto is the one that I just didn't heavily invest into, but I'm invested. So I invested low as well. So I mean, I've got a decent amount. I've made a decent amount, especially in the last year. And I recently heard one of the first blockchain guys who like literally started it in like the 80s, so like old school blockchain guy. He recommended that I buy Polkadot. So I basically recently bought that. So there's a hot tip for everybody. But he knows the owners of Polkadot, and it's on Ethereum, and it's like supposed to be like the next big thing. So I've just like doubled down on Polkadot.
You heard it here.
There you go.
There you go. Right. Well, what a lovely tip from the top there, Jackie. And then you sound amazingly busy, but in those moments where you can stream and watch something on Netflix, Amazon, Disney, all the others, Hulu, what's caught your eye recently?
Besides rewatching The Apprentice, obviously.
So most people are surprised at this. I subscribe to Hey You, which has all of the reality TV shows, and I literally watch like Real Housewives of Beverly Hills or Keeping Up with the Yes.
You do not want to meet my wife because you are peas in the pod.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
all of them.
It's just the most, I find it the most entertaining without kind of like thinking about it. And then saying that I'm also watching The Handmaid's Tale at the moment.
We just, we've just, gone.
I have to admit the Real Housewives and all of it's quite, you know, when you get into them,
super entertaining,
it's all consuming. And, and, you know, my wife's from the north of England, so she loves the Cheshire ones.
Okay.
You know, So
we're just waiting for the last episode of season 2 of The Circle. I don't know if you watched that at all.
No, didn't see that.
You probably like that one. Well, basically, it's kind of funny, especially with COVID, but they get a group of people, they quarantine them into these various apartments, and then they connect them all on like a social media channel.
But you don't know what they look like, right?
You don't know what they look like. There's no video. Half of them are pretending to be somebody else, and then they vote each other out once an evening or something. The Circle, there's 2 seasons of it. I love it. I'm a big like Survivor fan as well, and this kind of was a bit Survivor-y in that way. So yeah, there's a good one. I'm just waiting for the last episode.
I have heard of that.
Oh, look, Jackie, it's been great to catch up. Have we not talked about anything in particular that we should talk more about before I disappear into a world of Friday night television and pizzas and all
Sounds
the other things?
amazing. I think one of
Yeah.
the questions you had that you didn't ask, but I'm happy to talk about it, is The Apprentice.
Oh, okay, yes. I'm. What was it like? Was it fun, or were you?
Do you and Lord Sugar still WhatsApp or?
No, I mean, do you know who I am? Who I am still really close with though is Claude Littner. He is amazing. I mean, he wrote actually he wrote one of the endorsements on my book. Yeah, he's like the best guy ever. So yeah, I find it really, really funny about The Apprentice, mostly just because I kind of I do lots of things. Like going on The Apprentice is just one of the random things that I do. I'm big into like doing stuff. So recently I went to Somalia for a month to rescue cheetahs. Like I'll just do random stuff. If I get asked to do something, I'll do it. Wow. So The Apprentice for me is one of those things that I thought this would be hilarious. And then I got on and I was like, this is really weird. But I did it. And I really feel like it's an experience that very few people get to go through. So, I mean, there's only been 150 people in the world that have done The Apprentice. So I think that's unique in itself. I mean, everybody always asks, did you learn anything? One of the things that I was hoping to learn is how to manage people better. So I have had a career very, very young. I owned my own business when I was 25. I like led a department before that. And I've never had to work or compete for a job or promotion. So what I thought would be a really good experience for me is to be in The Apprentice and like, you know, be on the same level as people and, you know, see how good I am at that. That didn't really play out that well because the people were very different to people I would normally work with. Yeah, so I mean,
it's a bit of a different environment than an actual promotion.
It's not the same. And then I kind of thought I would get experience doing lots of different things. And I did, but you don't because it's small parts of things.
Some of the things are a scavenger hunt.
Yeah, so there's that. And then I would have said, you know, I mean, one of the things I did learn is people were like really desperate to win, and I did not understand that. And so that kind of opened my eyes to like the rest of the workplace, I guess. I mean, everybody I work with is like really, really smart. And if they want something, they go and they get it. They don't kind of like enter a game show and then hope for the best, you know, effectively. That's what it is. But I mean, there's a couple of really, really amazing people that I still keep in touch with. We've got like a apprentice WhatsApp group that people like kind of go back and forth in it. So yeah, but I mean, I definitely don't regret it. I definitely would have done it sooner if it wasn't on TV. I like that whole.
Do you think you had a fair chance?
No, I never thought I would win. So I never thought I would win. B, I never wanted to win because I would never give 50% of any business that I was in for 250 grand ever. Like I would just never do that. Right. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah. I would have loved to have seen that episode if you got that. To that point. No, I don't want to win.
I would be like, no.
Give it to this person.
I was never going to win. I never expected to win. I never wanted to win. So I was there because I just thought it'd be such a cool thing to do. Yeah. But I think that maybe wasn't the best way to go into something like that. I just didn't realize how intense everybody else wanted it. And I was like, oh shit.
Sounds a bit accidental almost. You applied on the lark and wound up on the show.
We did a board earlier on this week with Steve, he was one of the anchors on Shark Tank Australia. And I'm just curious because obviously done The Apprentice. Would you ever want to sort of follow that sort of, do more TV, do something like Shark Tank, do something?
I mean, I totally would.
Yeah.
I
think
mean,
you'd be very good.
I mean, 100%. I would love to do. It's like really fun-ish. I mean, I found the whole experience like really surreal. It's just very, very different. Like for me, I'm not interested in becoming a TV star. I'm interested in like being a billionaire. So, I mean, I'm never going to be a billionaire from being on a TV show. But what a TV show does do is it like changes the way that you can connect and network with people on like a level that you can't do by yourself. So The Apprentice actually was not a great platform for me. So prior to going on The Apprentice, I used to be booked out as a speaker, and I used to charge like $5,000 to go to speak to people about sponsorship because I'm an expert. And as soon as I went on The Apprentice, they actually had to stop booking me because they're like, we used to call you an expert and now you're on a show called The Apprentice. So we can't charge out to be an apprentice. I was like, but I'm an expert. And they're like, well, no, if you're on The Apprentice, you're not. And so I lost loads of speaking gigs just because of that alone. So going on the Shark Tank would be something different. But yeah, 100% I would do that.
Yeah, you, Claude, a few others there on the panel. I would definitely watch it.
There you go. Yeah.
Wonderful parting thought from me. And if I haven't connected you to a lady called Gillian Manus, who runs Structure VC in San Francisco, I don't know if I did, because I know...
No, you didn't. 100% didn't.
I will connect you to Gillian because she's a wonderful lady. She is, she's done some TV. She used to do Bloomberg TV with me when she was over in the UK and always, you know, give a view on the tech space. But she's fantastically talented, and I think you two would really hit it off. And you know, when you're on the West Coast, you should definitely get together because she's a fantastic lady, and I'm hoping to get her onto an episode in the future. But I'm going to depart. Thank you. It's been really good to catch up and really enjoyed hearing about your successes as always, Jackie. And there'll be more. So hopefully we'll catch up with you in a year or 18 months time and get the update. But well done and adieu.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. It's lovely to see you.